Hello happy gardeners, welcome back to Stinky Ditch Nursery. We've got Pete on camera. Say hello Pete.
Hello there.
And today we are talking about composting. This is the most amazing thing you can do with your garden waste and your food waste and old newspapers. At the moment we put it into our recycling, it gets picked up by a truck, it gets taken to a place and processed, and quite often we'll buy it back again in some shape or form. We don't need to do this, we can do this all at home by ourselves, and it doesn't need to go anywhere, and we will be creating something that is to do with organic gardening. It's not all about not using sprays and not using fungicides and not using insecticides. It's also about understanding how nature works and how we can get the nutrition out of this and turn it into, Pete, spin in, this stuff. Look at this, there we go. This is what it turns into. It looks like soil. Now the first time I ever saw this, see that Pete?
Yes,
I'll get you to spin in. Look at all the insects in it. We've got loads of little bugs in there.
Any worms in there?
No bones, no, but there's
worms.
No, worms, yes, yeah, we've got a few worms in there as well, but I'll get onto that in a minute. Yeah, I'll get onto that in a minute. If you just sit down, back down again. This stuff really captured my imagination when I was a little kid. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. I was with my dad at the compost bin, or compost heap we had in the garden. This is the sort of thing that people use nowadays. It's convenient to use in your back garden. Get one made out of recycled plastic. Now Pandora's been opened the box, we might as well use it for something. So get one made out of recycled plastic. But you don't need this. You can just have a pile in the corner of your garden, a few blocks around, and that's what we had when I was a kid. All the food waste, all the garden waste used to go on it, and we were digging it up to get the compost from the bottom. I'd never seen it before. My dad said, there it is. And I said, but Dad, that's soil, that's mud, that's dirt. And he said, no, that's what this turns into. And that night, when I was asleep as a kid, I had this epiphany. And I realised that everything that grows goes back to this. And then everything that grows comes back from it. It's something that's been going on for millions and millions of years. And we are privileged to be a part of that and bring a bit of this back into our garden. There's all sorts of good reasons, and I will start going into them. Now, how does this work? How does it turn this into this? The first thing that happens is we have fungus and bacteria eating away at the food. This will turn it into something else that little bugs can then come along and eat. So in here, Pete, if you'd like to spring in, I'll put my glasses on.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can see a few of the bugs that are part of this thing. There we are, we've got a little worm. Now these aren't the worms that you find deep in your garden. These are a type of worm that just go through leaf litter. They will just turn up in your compost bin. I've got lots of little tiny insects in there, lots of little springtails. We've got a whole sort of ecosystem going on in there. You can't really see much of it at the moment because they're all hiding underneath. But yes, so that's the main sort of start to get this stuff to break down. So you've got your bacteria, you've got your fungus breaking it all down. Then you've got the little worms, and you've got these worms here, they tend to go through leaf litter in the wild, and they eat it, and it turns into this wonderful, nutritious stuff. Now the nutrition comes from this stuff here. We've got our green material, we're going to call it, and we've got our brown material. Our green material contains lots of nitrogen, but it also contains lots of water. Now you mustn't put cooked food in here. There are other type of composting techniques that can be used where you can use cooked food, but it will attract rats and things like that, and you don't want them in your back garden really, making a nest in your compost heap. So our green material, it contains a lot of water, and it contains a lot of nitrogen, and we can put in lots of different things. I've got a mouldy old onion here, I've got some potato peelings, we've got a bit of garlic paper, you know, the outside of a garlic, I've got a bit of celery, a bit of pepper, all your potato peelings, all your carrot peelings, all that sort of stuff that you would normally put into your recycling bin, this can go into your compost and turn into this lovely stuff. Just a few notes on a few things. Tea bags, your tea bags and your coffee grinds, they can go in there as well. But make sure you're using a tea bag that has a biodegradable net around it. Some are still using plastic. I know in the UK, PG Tips now, you can put these in your compost. The worst thing that will happen if you get it wrong is that it will just come out the bottom, and you'll find some bits of plastic in your compost, and you can take them out at the end once the whole thing is finished doing it. And it takes, well, I'll go into that in a minute. Another thing, another little note, with your citrus fruits, your oranges and lemons, they are quite often sprayed with fungicides. Now, it's important not to get a fungicide in with this lot, because the fungus is the whole point. This is the thing that is starting off this process of breaking everything down. So with your lemons and your oranges and grapefruit and things like that, just give them a good scrub, give them a good wash with some soapy water before you eat them anyway, and then you'll have got rid of any fungicide, so that won't be a problem. Now, we've also got our green material from our garden. Now, Pete, if you'd like to come over, I've got a few weeds here. Now, I've got a perennial weed, which is the dandelion. Now, the dandelion root there, that will still survive the composting process, and you'll end up spreading a lot of dandelions around your garden. I've also got some bindweed here. This is another thing, it's got the little white flower on it. It's another thing that if we put it into the compost, this will come back again. So to stop it from doing that, Pete, if you'd like to just show the people, we chuck it in a bucket of water. So that can stay in a bucket of water for, put it at the back of your shed or something. So leave it in a bucket of water for a few weeks until it's all going a bit mushy and it would have broken down, and then you can stick it onto your compost heap itself. Also, what we got in here, we've got some just normal weed cuttings from the garden that are not perennial weeds, so these will be fine, we can just bung those in. I've got some grass cuttings, also lots of water in here, so when you are putting all this green material in, you want to balance it out with about the same amount of brown material. Now, brown material is full of carbon, old leaves like this, perfect. You can put them, go over them with the lawnmower if you want to break them up a bit. Any sticks that go in, so long as it's thinner than your finger, it will break down in the end. If it comes out of the bottom of the bin next year with the compost, just pop it back in the top again and it will eventually break down. We've also got some grass cuttings like this, just old, grass cuttings that have dried out a bit. Cardboard, take off any sticky bits of tape on it and rip it up a little bit, and that can go in. Get it out of your recycling, put it in your compost bin, and this stops the truck chugging it around, and and a lot of this stuff is composted down and then turned back into compost. In the Western world, we seem to have been a bit conned into thinking that stuff only grows in bags of compost that we buy from the supermarket or from the garden centre. This isn't true. You can make this stuff yourself. It's too rich to plant anything in directly, so you mix this with a bit of soil out of your garden and you will make a nutritious thing to put in your hanging baskets or anything like that. Also, egg boxes, they're good. Part of this process involves air. And so if you put an egg box like that, you've got all these little pockets of air in here. This is good for your compost bin. You need the air in there. And another quick note on glossy stuff. Now, you might be thinking glossy stuff is plastic, but if you tear them at the edge, have a look, this is like flies that come through the door and things like that. If you tear it at the edge, sometimes give it a little nibble, you can tell it's not plastic, it's actually a soya-based thing that makes it into a glossy thing, and it will actually break down. It will break down. So what have we covered? Oh, newspaper. We have newspaper. Scrunched up newspaper. Lovely stuff. And this will balance out the wetness of all this. If you just put in wet stuff, you're going to end up with something very slushy. Nutritious, but very slushy. If you just put in dry stuff, it won't break down properly. You need the water in there, and it needs a bit of heat. So we'll now go on to the position of your compost bin, and then I'll get onto this little beasties here. So this compost bin here, Pete, if you'd like to spin over a little bit, as you can see, it has no bottom to it. Yeah? And this is important. You want to put your compost bin, ideally, on open ground, so that the bugs and the worms and everything can climb in there from the bottom. If you haven't got anywhere to put it in open ground, and you do have to put it on a patio or something like this, these bugs, they will get in there somehow. I don't know how, but they do. They come in on stuff, and so the whole process will work. You want to put it in a relatively sunny position. It's good to have a bit of heat. It speeds up the process and keeps it, but it doesn't necessarily have to have a lid on it. You can just have it as an open thing.
That's why mine doesn't break down, because mine's under trees.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it could be. You've got yours under trees and it takes a long time to break down.
I'll move it now.
Move it to a sunnier spot. There we go. Also, minerals. Now, this is something that fascinates me. Eggshells, they can go in. They're not essential. If you're vegan and you don't eat eggs, don't think you have to put eggshells in there. I find it's a lot better if you crunch them up before they go in. They'll break down a lot quicker. Wood ash. Wood ash is also very good. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I won't go into it now, just believe me, there's good stuff. Human hair. Look, Pete, it's my lockdown hair.
Yes?
Yeah, the barber.
Well, you won't get much of mine.
No, the barber thought I was really odd wanting it. But yeah, I didn't have my hair cut for a year and a half, and I went to the barber
Really?
after
And you've
lockdown.
kept it all that time?
Well, I've kept it, yeah,
Good
yeah, I know.
heavens.
I was an unusual child. Anyway, but your hair, that can go in the compost bin. A quick note on hair. If you have a long-haired dog or cat, and you get them clipped quite often, if they've been given worming stuff or defleeing stuff, you don't want that going in there for the same reason we don't want the lemon with the anti-fungicide, with the fungicide on it. We don't want the flea powder or anything like that going in there, because again it breaks up this system of all these little bugs breaking down initially at the very start. I think I've got that over just about. And also, this is the one that gets me. Human urine. This is actually lager. But human urine. It's amazing, amazing stuff. Get over it. Get over it. I'm not suggesting put all of your urine on your compost bin. Just about that much every week or so. Put it in a jar, sling it in there. If you're going to put it directly onto plants outside, tomatoes or stuff, you want to be diluting it 10-1, sort of. But the nutritional value of this is unbelievable. A quick Google search will show you that a university in Norway, I think, or maybe Finland, worked out that the wee from one person in 1 year was enough to grow 6,200 tomato plants that cropped 2.4 tons of fruit. That's from one person. We spend an awful lot of money and effort making these fertilisers, and it's just coming out of us and we're pumping it into the sea. It's ridiculous. So I'm not suggesting you put all your wee on there, but we've got to work out something as human beings as to not waste this incredibly, incredibly nutritious thing. So once we've got our compost bin in a reasonably sunny position and away from the house preferably, because they can smell a bit at certain times of the year if you're not careful. Not much, but a bit. We just start chucking stuff in. So I've got all that in there. That can go in. Here we are, all these things can go in there as well. You want to try and keep your mix of brown material like this and your green material. You want to do about a 50-50 mix, and some people like to do it in layers, but if you just chuck all this in here like that, there we go. It really is this easy, people. There we are. We've got a few weeds from the top there. That can go in like that, and there we are. Now, one thing it also needs is a bit of air. I'm not going to tip the wee in there. One thing it also needs is a bit of air, and so every now and again, get in your compost bin and give it a bit of a mix-up like that. If you haven't got the strength to do that, because it can be a bit of a job, and this is something that anyone can do, and you can just get the end of a broom handle and just push that in and make holes, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that will work as well. That will work as well. It will get the air in there, and it will help this process, of breaking down, and you'll end up with this. So that's about it, really. I implore you to have a go at doing this. It really is a very magical thing to make your own compost like that, and to see how nutritious it is and how well plants grow from something that you have created from the waste. It's also stopping all these lorries chugging around the world, taking stuff from one place to another, to process it, to put it in bags, to sell it back to us. You can do all of this at home and have a go. Really, have a go. It takes about 3-6 months for stuff to break down into this sort of thing, but it's a patience thing. It takes quite a long time for one of those. Anyway, I think that's it. This has been Robbie Phoenix down at Stinky Ditch Nursery with Pete on camera, just showing you how to get a bit of compost going and do your bit for nature. Thank you for watching.